Welcome back to another episode of Gimme Some Truth. This is a 2.0 for Clint and I, talking about what people see when they retire. And before we get into that, I was thinking, what is the best sequel? Movie sequel. What is the best sequel? Now, this isn't a sequel to our first podcast. So it's a little different, but we're still going to go with it.
That's true.
What's the best sequel? Don't give me The Godfather. That's everybody says that.
I know everyone says that. So I'm gonna nerd out then, and I'm gonna say Empire Strikes Back is the best sequel, because even the first Star Wars kind of mediocre. You know, like when you compare it to Empire Strikes Back, it's way better. Okay. And the acting, I think they just they had to send Luke to some acting classes, stuff like
one
that.
Of those deals.
Yeah, Mark Hamill needed to kind of like round out the old acting chops and stuff. And
Tighten
Carrie Fisher was always pretty good, but
How do you feel about Back to the Future 2? That was kind of weird.
That's a no for me. Obviously Caddyshack 2, not so good.
There's some bad ones on there.
There's some bad ones. Do you have a favorite sequel?
I think my son says that Aliens 2 is very good.
Terminator 2 also way up there for sequels. Yeah.
I really don't. Actually, what I will do is I'll go a really strange direction, and I will say, what's the movies with Gru? The cartoon movies with Gru?
What you call it? Minions? No, it's not Minions.
Not Minions, but that movie. So the second one of that was fantastic, and then also. I think. Well, actually, let's just stay in the Pixar Disney area.
Yeah.
Some of those sequels are really good, or some of those like kind of Toy Story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of those are fantastic.
I'm a big Inside Out fan. Inside Out 2 was actually quite good. And if we go with another, really really good sequel, let's see. Look Who's Talking To.
Oh, yikes! Wow, we're getting from both of our producers. We're getting wrap it up. Here we go. Let's get into it. So the reason why we think that this is valuable is because we see in society that people enter retirement and they kind of go into it not knowing what it is, how it's going to feel, what it's going to look like on a day-to-day basis. And it actually can be really scary for people, and it can be intimidating in a way to not know what to do, how to fill up your day, how to interact with your spouse that you've not been, next to for every minute of every day, and all of a sudden you're both hanging around in the same house. These are challenges that people face every day, and I think it hits them differently, but I don't know that it always hits them in a positive way.
That's right. They have to learn how to kind of assimilate back into each other's daily lives.
Yeah,
and that's a huge thing, especially when somebody or both people leave the house, at 7 and come back, and if they had kids, there was a big period of their time where they were running kids around for sports and everything. Yep. And you do have a little bit of a transition usually from that into empty nesting and then into this. So they kind of get used to each other a bit, but then it's all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so that's a big change for a lot of people.
In the first podcast that we did on this week, we hit a couple social topics and a couple financial topics. We're going to do the same today. So let's jump into it. Our first topic is just the mindset that couples have. I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. We've seen a lot of that, of just the idea of do both people in the relationship see retirement the same way?
Yeah, in many cases that answer is no. One, and it kind of depends on what type of work they had. If they had a really grueling job and they were an executive for a long period of time,
yep.
They have this mindset of like, wow, I just want to decompress, especially in the beginning, and I just want to be able to relax, and it's almost that quasi vacation mindset. And then that'll change over time.
Yeah.
And, if you are kind of waiting for your spouse, or you're kind of in that sort of like, I was tapering down my workload and I kind of got ready for my retirement. A lot of people are like, okay, well, now I'm ready for that volunteerism, or, I'm ready to jump into, helping out with a lot of different things. And the other person might just be exhausted. So it's a different mindset for both people for sure. And some people just want to like unleash that travel. And I've seen couples where it's like, yeah, he doesn't really like to travel.
Yeah.
And she really wants to travel.
Right.
And then how are you going to solve for that? Are you going to take the spouse that really doesn't want to do it and you take them along and hope that they enjoy themselves? Or what I see sometimes too is, okay, well, I'm going to grab a group of my girlfriends and we're going to go out and we're going to go do that travel that the husband maybe doesn't want to do, and still have that experience and scratch that itch.
Yeah, I think the common theme, the thread that'll run through all of these is open communication between the people involved and really kind of getting those conversations out in the open and understanding what both sides want, because we have actually seen situations where the couples will be surprised within the relationship of, oh, I thought you wanted to do this. Oh, no, I didn't. And you can see that conversation never actually happened. So don't assume that you know what the other side is. And even if that's going to take a step beyond that into, no, we're going to help out with the grandkids. Okay, well, you might want to talk to the kids about that idea before that assumption. So again, it's just having that open communication within your family is really important, because filling the time during the week when it is, that's normally filled with work, trying to fill that with tasks or ideas that haven't been vetted to other people may not be as welcome as you think they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. The second social topic is the, maybe I'll consult. Right. We hear that a lot.
That's the maybe I'll consult boomerang. It's just, everybody says that because I think they're like, well, I've got all this expertise and I'm just going to go start up a company and become an entrepreneur out of nowhere, and I'm just going to go consult. And you're like, well, easier said than done. I mean, some people do have natural networks where it is a natural thing to, hey, I'm going to go out and have really specialized expertise. Everyone thinks they're a consultant in what they do and that they can make money doing that. But you have to spin up more of a marketing machine. It's going to take a little bit more time than you likely think.
Yeah, it's a job, right? You're not going to likely consult for 10 hours a week. And even if that is what you're consulting, you're not working 10 hours a week. You're probably working 20 to 30 hours a week to consult for 10.
Yeah, and you got to learn how to do the billing process and all of that. And it's not overly complex, doing that or spinning up a website or something like that involves cost. And it can impact some of your other planning too. You've got to set up likely an LLC. You've got to have different books. It impacts your tax situation. Now, it does also give you a lot more flexibility. You might have an ability to defer some more money or bring some money in the household where you don't have to take withdrawals from that. But then also there's some landmines too. Did you start Social Security early? Well, now that might have a big impact if you did decide to do that. Did you plan out on doing Roth conversions? And now that might be in question as well. And then also, Medicare premiums starting at age 65. Well, maybe you hit your IRMA brackets and all of a sudden you're in a situation where you're paying more for healthcare than you anticipated just because you decided to spin up a consulting career. So
you needed to pay quarterlies and you didn't,
quarterly estimated taxes, all of that. Yes, all of that. I mean, it's a big endeavor to do that. And we do see a lot of clients do that, but it is a wrench in there. And it's especially a wrench that if we go back to problem number one, if somebody just goes and consults and starts filling up hours and the other spouse is like, I thought you were retired and I thought we were going to start doing more fun stuff, and now it consumes them and they get sucked back into this work thing because it's familiar to them, that can be a real problem in the household.
Yeah. And especially if the income is not needed, if it's being done for purpose or for identity or for the structure that you want. Again, just understanding how much time you're willing to put into that and just the impact that might have on the other person in your household or the other people in your lives. So let's move on to the financial. So just I think the relationship with kids and wanting to help is such a slippery slope. And I don't know that people really understand what can happen the first time that we are generous and potentially the expectation that is then set. Again, communication, right? Communicate these things and have a good understanding, and not just with the people that you're giving the money to, but with your spouse if that is the case, so that everybody's on the same page.
So let's say one thing that I've experienced with our clients at least is that the first withdrawal is always the toughest. And so when you take out that first withdrawal from your account, whether it be for a premature distribution, whether it be for something that you're like, hey, I'm just going to buy this big ticket item, and they take the money out, or they send the money over to their kids. That's always the easiest. And then they come, that's always the hardest. And then they always come a lot easier after that. And
not in a good way.
Not in a good way necessarily, because it starts to get a little too familiar. When you give gifts to kids also, I think that when we give the gift, the first gift is one of the most meaningful.
Yes.
And then it starts becoming more expected.
Yeah.
And when mom and dad give $5,000 a year, they do it for 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, well, where's my $5,000? Because I kind of budgeted for that $5,000. Hopefully that's coming. And if it doesn't come, that could have a real impact on the psyche and also the planning. So you've got to plan out. And I also see this sort of like Die with Zero trend. I've read the book. I like the book. But this whole like, I'm just going to give away everything to my kids. And you're like, yeah, but that may or may not be a good idea. You've got to plan that out.
Yeah.
And what the last time that we want to have that conversation with people is when they come in and they say, I've decided I'm going to give X, Y, Z to the kids. And so we need to just distribute this money.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a second. We got to sit down and talk about how giving away this money prior to your death, how it's going to impact your overall financial plan. Let's make sure you're good first. We have enough safety margin and everything's good. Let's design a gifting plan that's smart and tax efficient. And, you know, let's take what you want to do and make it into a really good thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of articles written, books, you know, Bill Perkins' book. There's a lot out there about the idea of kind of enjoying the money that you have while you are capable of enjoying it, right? And to the extent of even, you know, benefiting kids and grandkids and being generous and things like that. And obviously, we're not saying don't do that. We're simply saying that it's more complex and layered than maybe people realize. And I think that it's hard for people to have an appreciation for that because they see the good of it, and it is good, absolutely, no question. But if it's not done with intent and with thought and with planning, it can easily turn into something that has negative aspects to it that you didn't anticipate. And I think you're right for both sides, right? Where the parents are going, hey, wait, I did this generous thing. It doesn't feel like I'm getting the appreciation back. Or from the kids' side, where they're going, to your point, okay, we got this money, we're going to get it again. We don't know, and then planning becomes difficult there because we've had plenty of conversations with the kids of these situations of the parents being incredibly generous and giving money every year. And then the first question we ask is, do you think that'll continue? And they go, I don't know. Well, that becomes difficult to plan for then if we don't know what that is. So it doesn't mean that it has to continue. It just means that even if we don't know it's going to continue, even just communicating that is probably better than not communicating anything. Hey, we're giving you this money. I don't know if we'll do it again, but just wanted to give this to you now. We don't want you to plan on it if it doesn't happen in the future, but we just wanted to do this gift. That even that alone is enough communication.
Yeah, and having the conversation with the children too before it happens. Like, hey, I just, gave a grandchild a whole bunch of money. Oh, I just crushed their ability to earn financial aid.
Right.
Something like that has a total unintended consequence that your generosity just ends up turning into something really bad. So you just want to plan it out, and you just want to have a good conversation, involve the professionals in your life as well, and just make sure that you're treading lightly there. And the last thing that I'll say is please never just put your house in your kid's name. Like, you impact the step up in basis, all of that. So just by transferring wealth kind of randomly to them because you're going to get this burden off your shoulder and do it before you die could have massive consequences. We had somebody that came in for advice. They had already done it. They were a prospective client, and they had already changed the title of their house. They had gotten it from their parents. Parent died, and now they did not have a step up in basis.
Yeah.
And it was a huge tax bill that they had to pay.
Yeah, we won't go deep down that path today, but we'll simply say that when transferring of assets, there are some very, very positive and lucrative tax laws that are in place if it is done correctly and if it is passed correctly. But if it's done prematurely, you don't get those benefits anymore, and that can be really, really painful. So again, if you're going to do something, talk to the people in your life before you make that happen, because we can probably accomplish what you want to accomplish, but done in a way that benefits you and not benefit the government, right? Let's move on to everybody's favorite topic, healthcare.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody loves healthcare.
Well, I think in retirement, and I think things have been shaped a little bit more around, very positively, around wellness and trying to enjoy those retirement years as long as we possibly can. And, a lot of people spend that time, maybe they got a little bit out of shape because, it's been a number of years where you didn't have the time to stay in shape or be able to prioritize that in your life. And now you have the ability to do that. And so, we can add a lot of increased healthcare costs on top of our regular healthcare costs that we should budget for. And if you have a desire to do that, you should definitely share that as a line item in your financial plan. I think it's really important. So we're seeing, higher, if you have a higher level gym membership or you have a trainer, you got to account for those costs, which can be sizable. People that are aging sometimes have med spa needs. They want Botox. They want something else. They want, something. They want GLPs. They want things that might be outside of the regular and the norm of our normal drugs or wellness care. And those are expensive as well. Red light therapy, cryotherapy, all kinds of different things, massage, all of those can be added costs. And you could easily run up a $1,200 to $1,500 a month.
Yeah. Easy.
Wellness budget. And so you just need to be honest with yourself about what you want to do and what you want to try to accomplish, and make sure that you build that into your spending plan, because that's way above and beyond anything that Medicare is going to cover, obviously.
Yeah. I think the central theme is just communication, and the communication not only with the people that you're going to retire with, your financial professionals, the kids, the grandkids, just having open lines of communication, I think is really, really important. It doesn't solve all of the challenges, but it's going to make it a lot easier if you go into this process knowing what the people in your life are also expecting and expecting of you. And so, there may be a 3.0 to this. There's very few good trilogy, the third movie, so maybe that'll hold us up and maybe we won't do it as a result of the movie question, but we'll see. Maybe we will. There's probably enough out there where we can.
Return of the King, right? Very good third movie.
What?
Yeah, you didn't. That's not you. Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it's Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
I should watch that one of these times. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Gimme Some Truth. We hope you found this valuable. If you want to place any comments or any thoughts in the below section when we post it online, please do that, because we are happy to address those in the next podcast that we do. Thanks again for watching us on Gimme Some Truth.
Walkner Condon Financial Advisors is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The opinions expressed by the participants of this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Walkner Condon Financial Advisors. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. Thanks for listening, and for further information, please visit WalknerCondon.com.